You delegate fine to some people, but it's the ones that you need approval from that are burning you out. Hey. Welcome to She's That Founder Thursday edition, the podcast for ambitious female leaders who are ready to stop being the bottleneck in their business. These are the quick rants, kick in the pants, velvet boot moments that represent me standing in the future, pulling you toward the even stronger, better, more powerful version of yourself with AI as your co-pilot. So, real talk. I keep hearing from founders, I just need to get better at giving feedback. And I'm like, no, you don't. You give feedback just fine to some people. Your junior coordinator, you can give her crystal clear feedback. This needs another pass. Here's what needs to change. Get back to me by Thursday. No problem. No midnight rewrites, no 20-minute email redrafts, no worrying about hurting her feelings. But perhaps your creative director, the one you stretched your budget to hire, the one you're paying maybe 6 figures, the one who came from that agency that everyone respects, you're rewriting her work at 11 p.m. again. And here's what you tell yourself. She's so talented. I don't want to micromanage her. I should just handle this one myself. But that's not what actually is happening. What actually is happening is that you delegate fine to some people, but it's the ones whose approval that you need that are burning you out. So let's just put it this way. If you're in a corporate job, you have 50 people. You may have a big organization inside the corporation that you can outsource to. And if one person leaves, it's annoying, but it's manageable. But you, in your startup, as a founder, if you're doing great and you're in a particular phase of growth, you have 8 people, maybe 12, but every single person feels critical. That senior hire that you fought to afford, if she leaves, you're back doing her job yourself, recruiting again, training someone new, and explaining to everyone why she left. So you do this calculation, usually unconsciously. Can I afford to disappoint this person? And when the answer is no, you start softening your feedback into suggestions, rewriting their work instead of sending it back, and taking back the work to just handle it just this once, all because you're worried about hurting their feelings. You're worried about them thinking you're too demanding. You're worried about losing them. I was listening to Amy Poehler's Good Hang podcast, which I love, by the way. And Gwyneth Paltrow was her guest. And one of the things that she said really stopped me cold, especially in the business space. She was talking about being in entertainment, but I was just thinking about it from the founder perspective. And she said, I worked with a coach on how to hold the uncomfortable feelings of somebody else and disappointing somebody else. I really had a problem with it with men. And yes, she said men, because in her industry, men held more power positions. And girl, men hold more power positions in all business still, but we're working on it. So here's what I see in service businesses. It's not as much about gender, but it is about power, and not corporate power and not title power, but the power to make you question if you're a good leader. And let me tell you who that is in your business. It is almost always your most expensive hire. You stretched the budget to get them in the door, and if they leave, it's proof that you couldn't handle them. Your star performer, everybody loves them, and if they're unhappy, everyone will know that you're the problem. The hire who came from somewhere better, maybe the bigger agency, a bigger brand, a corporate position, and if they leave, it confirms that you weren't ready for them. These are the people whose feelings you're constantly worried about hurting, and this is why you're the bottleneck. Not because you can't delegate, but because you're running 2 completely different delegation systems. System 1 is for people whose approval you don't need. You can provide clear feedback. This needs to be redone. Here's the standard. And it's direct communication. Nope, we're doing it this way. It's held boundaries. I need this by Friday. Zero worry about their feelings because you trust them to handle it. Delegation system 2 is for people whose approval you think you need. And you give them softened feedback. I'm wondering if maybe we could explore ... or indirect communication. What do you think about, or negotiable boundaries? If you can get to it, no pressure. And it's because you have constant worry about how they'll take that feedback. And this is the same founder, the same quality issue, but a completely different response. So the number one skill you're actually missing isn't how to hand off tasks. It's how to give clear feedback without needing someone's approval in return, without worrying about hurting their feelings, without managing their potential disappointment. And I want to tell you what this actually costs you. Every time you rewrite the email 4 times to make sure it doesn't sound critical, 20 minutes. Every time you take back work instead of giving clear feedback, 2 hours minimum of your CEO time. Redoing their work yourself at midnight, 3 hours you don't have and sleep you will never get back. That is not being helpful. That is paying the approval tax. And you can't step into CEO level strategy when you're busy managing everyone's feelings and potential disappointment. And here's the deeper thing that Gwyneth named in that podcast episode. It's so self-honoring when you just speak the truth and you can do it very kindly. Self-honoring. Why is it so hard to be self-honoring? Because when you need someone's approval, giving them honest feedback feels like threatening your own identity. Your internal monologue might look something like this. If I give her critical feedback, she'll think I'm a micromanager. If I hold this boundary, she'll think I'm difficult. If I send this back for revision, she'll lose respect for me. And if she leaves, everyone will know it's because I wasn't a good enough leader. But let me be clear, you're not managing their disappointment. You're managing the story that you're afraid their disappointment will confirm about you. So let me say that one more time, just so that you really hear it. When you give feedback that way, when you let that internal monologue run the process of giving feedback, you're not managing the disappointment of the person you're giving feedback to. You're managing the story you're afraid their disappointment confirm about you. Got it? So here's what that looks like. I had a client, Tanya, that was running a $1.8 million creative agency. She had 10 people. She could give clear feedback to 8 of them, men, women, junior, mid-level, no problem. But her creative director couldn't touch her. This CD came from a big agency, one of those names that makes people go, oh, wow. And Tanya felt lucky that this creative director had said yes to her boutique shop. So when the creative director's work wasn't hitting the mark, Tanya would ask for her input instead of giving direction. She would present strategy as questions instead of decisions, and then take over projects to be helpful. Like, she basically stepped in as a second creative director, all because she was worried about hurting the creative director's feelings. And because she was worried about the creative director thinking she wasn't ready to lead someone at that level. And you know what happened? The creative director got bored because she wasn't being led. She was being managed by someone who wouldn't make a clear decision. And she left after 11 months. And Tanya's takeaway was, see, I told you I couldn't handle someone at that level. And I was like, girl, wrong. No. The real problem is that Tanya was so busy worrying about the creative director's feelings that she stopped actually leading her. So here's what needs to change. You need to learn, we all need to learn what Gwyneth learned with her coach. How to hold someone else's disappointment without making it your emergency. Not fix it, not prevent it, not manage it, just hold it. Here's the shift. Before giving feedback, ask yourself, am I softening this because they can't handle directness or because I'm worried about hurting their feelings and losing their approval? If it's the second one, that is not kindness, that is self-protection and selfishness. Would I say this to someone whose approval I don't need? If you would share that information and be direct with, for instance, your junior coordinator, then go be direct with your creative director. And this is where AI can become your approval detector. It's a little uncomfortable, but it works. So here's a prompt for you. I need you to analyze my feedback patterns. I'm pasting below 3 emails I sent to junior team members and 3 emails I sent to senior team members. Identify where my language changes from direct to hedging, where I'm managing their reaction versus stating what needs to happen, and what the senior feedback would look like with the same clarity I use for the junior staff. And then paste in your junior emails, paste in your senior emails, and hit send. You'll see the pattern immediately. And, I'm using this example of junior, senior, etc., but whatever you know to be true, there are certain people that you feel very free and confident giving feedback to and certain people that you don't. So use those examples. AI doesn't have the approval economy running in its head or the approval tax. It'll show you exactly where you're diluting your leadership language because you're worried about people's feelings. So this week, here's your move. Write down the people in your business whose approval you're most afraid to lose. And sidebar, you can do this with your family members too. Write down the ones whose feelings you're constantly worried about. Step 2, next time you give them feedback, write it in the way that you'd write it to someone whose approval you don't need. Don't send it yet, just look at the difference. And then step 3, send the clear version. And here's the hard part. Let them be disappointed if they're disappointed. Let them have their feelings. Don't chase it, don't fix it, don't follow up with just to make sure that we're good. Just let it land. Because here's what Gwyneth learned and what I have learned from practicing this. Most of the time, they just handle it. They say, got it, I'll adjust it. No drama, no leaving, no loss of respect. This disappointment you were managing and the hurt feelings you were so worried about, they mostly existed in your head. So here's the bottom line. You're not the bottleneck because you can't delegate. You're the bottleneck because you delegate differently to people whose approval you need. And the number one skill you need isn't delegation skills necessarily. Look, we all could use a little touch up, I get it, but it's giving clear feedback to the people whose approval you think you need without worrying about hurting their feelings. So you're running two delegation systems, one clear and one softened, and that is exhausting, and that is what's burning you out. Use AI to help you identify what those approval patterns are. And once you see them, you can't unsee them because you delegate fine to some people, but it's those ones that you need the approval from that are burning you out. Because you're leading a business. You're not there to collect approval from people you're literally paying. So stop running Approval Management Inc. and start leading like the CEO that you already are. And if you're ready to stop managing everyone's approval and start leading with clarity, join the AI for Founders community. It's free and it's full of founders learning to lead without the approval economy. In the meantime, have fun shifting your language, Levy. And drop me a DM and let me know how that's going. Okay, talk soon.